Are you thinking about living in Vancouver, BC? You've been doing your research and looking at all these different areas and neighborhoods, trying to figure out what the best place for you to live would be. You hear a lot of things about Vancouver and some of the bigger suburbs such as Burnaby, North Vancouver, Surrey, and you're hearing all these different things and you just want to know, what is the best neighborhood going to be for me? Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you about one of the hidden gems, a suburb in Vancouver that a lot of people overlook and not that many people talk about because frankly, they just don't know enough about it. Well, today, I'm going to be uncovering everything you need to know about Port Moody, BC. Now, Port Moody, BC is an absolutely spectacular place, and like I said, a lot of people overlook. And we're gonna be uncovering everything that you need to know, so make sure you stick around till the end. Stay all the way through because I'm gonna be sharing with you a lot of new developments, a lot of changes that are happening to the city, as well as an area, an extension of Port Moody where you tap into the luxury houses, the waterfront views, the peaceful nature living that you definitely don't want to miss. So without further ado, we got a lot to uncover here. I'm excited to take you guys through, so let's get into it right now. Okay, we're gonna dive right into it and let's just jump on the map, and I'm gonna show you first off where Port Moody is located compared to the other areas and what is Port Moody. So first off, we're gonna zoom out and give you an overview of the location, general location of Port Moody. Now, Port Moody is, as we mentioned, it's a suburb here in Vancouver and it's part of the Tri-Cities, which the Tri-Cities includes Coquitlam, it includes Port Coquitlam, and as well Port Moody. Compared to Vancouver, it is a few cities east. So Vancouver on the west end here, you have Northwest Vancouver on the other side of the bridge of the water, and you have Burnaby, which is a very central location, and then one city, one suburb over, that's where you get into Port Moody. And so Port Moody is one of the smaller suburbs here. The population is around 40,000, so it's a tight-knit community. It's a smaller suburb and it has its own distinct feel, and we're gonna get into everything you need to know. So let's zoom in and start talking about some of the areas that are must-knows. Right before we do that, I'm just gonna share with you how you get to Port Moody. So there are a few key roads that lead you into Port Moody. So the highway, of course, is one of the major ones, but Port Moody is a little bit tucked in there in the corner, so you don't get to Port Moody right as you get off the highway. Let me explain. So the few major routes to get into Port Moody include getting off the highway. It includes Barnett Highway, which is not really as popular, as big as Highway 1. And then it includes from the Coquitlam end, the other side of Barnett or Lougheed Highway. First off, from Vancouver, if you're taking Highway 1, which is right over here, you go all the way along. Somewhere around here, you can get off on exit 37 and enter into Burquitlam area, which is at the cross section of Burnaby and Coquitlam. And this will lead you onto Clark Road into Port Moody. And then the other part from Vancouver or Burnaby is through Hastings, and you go through Barnett Highway here into Port Moody. And we're gonna cover this part because this highway is different. It's incredibly beautiful in the sense that you have the water right beside you, and also it's usually not very traffic filled compared to Highway 1. We'll get into that in a second. And then on the other side, if you're coming from other areas of the Tri-Cities like Coquitlam, or you're getting off Lougheed Highway here, then you can take Barnett Highway on the other side into Port Moody. So now that we're zoomed into Port Moody, we're gonna start off with St. John area. And this is a very interesting area in the sense that it is a mix of old and new. A lot of this area contains heritage restaurants, contains a lot of older land, older living spaces, but in the recent years, a lot has been happening, and this area, in my prediction, in the next 5 to 10 years is going to look completely different, completely revamped, and I'm gonna share with you the new developments and plans that the city of Port Moody has for this area. So as we jump on in right away, we're gonna cover a few key intersections. So the first one is coming from St. John, so coming into St. John, I should say. So once, like we said, you get off Burquitlam onto Clark Road, this is a steep downhill, and that's where you enter into Port Moody. Right over here, there are a few things that are going on right now. There are a few new developments that you have to know because they are master plan communities, and the main one is being Portwood. So Portwood is on the way down from Clark Road. So if you turn into Cecile, right over here, and you go a little bit further in, this whole area is being redeveloped into this master plan community, multi-phase. including condos as well as townhomes. So that's a new and upcoming area. From what I believe, the first phase, if I remember correctly, will be completing in 2027 or 2028. And so now if we zoom out a little bit and go on Barnett Highway, which we were talking about, this highway leading into Port Moody is actually the preferred way for a lot of people coming in from Vancouver or Burnaby, because number one, like we said, the traffic here is a lot better compared to Highway 1 during rush hour, and also you get some really nice views of the mountains to your right, as well as the water on the other side, which is the Burrard Inlet. So now that you have a bit of a sense of this very western end of Port Moody, I would say this is not really the core of Port Moody. It's more of an entrance into Port Moody. There are some older detached homes and other stuff in this area, but generally speaking, this is a more quiet area. But with Portwood coming, that could be the start of a new community, a new change. So definitely something to be aware of. And once we get to the corner of St. John here and Barnett Highway, there is another new development, which is Hugh by Marcon. And that's interesting because it's right at the bottom of the slope. So you're kind of still on a slant, but not really. And you get some nice views of the water from there. Now, as we enter into St. John Street, I'm gonna change the view and definitely drop a human on you later on so you can get a sense of what it looks like. But St. John Street is filled with some different restaurants, and it's just a place where a lot of new things are happening. On the south end of St. John Street, there are a ton of new developments, and it seems like they're slowly eating away at the greenery here and putting into place new developments, new living spaces for Port Moody. And so one thing to note in terms of Port Moody's history is, I would say 10 years ago, Port Moody was ultra nature, and the city really didn't want to get rid of the nature aspect of Port Moody, and they didn't want to fill it up with high rises, with all these condo buildings and stuff like that. But in recent years, with the big demand for housing, Port Moody, with a change also of their city council and members, they're kind of going through a change themselves, and they've been accepting and approving all these new developments that are coming into place. So it looks like that's the direction Port Moody is going in, but make sure you stick around later, because what makes Port Moody special is the nature aspect of it, and there is still a ton of that left up north, which we will get to right after this. But we got some other things to cover here first, so let's do that first. Right now, we're gonna drop a human onto St. John Street so you can get an idea. So this is still the early parts, and as you can see, we have different plazas here on the side. You have different restaurants, there's sushi, there's Korean food down there, and there's also a vet here. And so as you can see, there's an animal hospital, there's Subway. This is the Korean place I'm talking about. It's very good, a little bit on the pricier end of Korean food, but I really love their spicy tofu soup. Anyways, once we get down here, this is an important intersection. As you can see, this building looks pretty new, which it is. And look at that view of just all the mountains. So this is Moody Street, and you're good. This is where you can get into Rocky Point Park, which we will cover later on. But even just here, you see this doesn't look old at all. It looks modern. You have Taps and Tacos over there. Another condo building with some commercial space on the first floor. This is a restaurant, the Hard Bean. And if we get into this street, right along here on the first floor, you have commercial space with different coffee shops, salons, stuff like that, with your residential living apartments right upstairs. And with that, if you have one of these units facing the water, you have some impeccable views of the mountain. But one thing to note is if we change over to the other view for a second, there is a train going along this area. So that's one thing to note, is it does get kind of noisy sometimes. When the train goes by, it can make some big squeals, big squeaks. So if you don't like the noise, that's one thing to be aware of. Maybe stay a little bit further away from the train tracks. But switching over views, there's a few other things I want to mention. There is another new development right off of Clark. So right over here, Mary Street, there's a new development called Mary Ann's Place that is coming, and it's a wood frame condo with some live work units and more commercial space on the first floor. So very similar to the likes of the building we just covered. Now, like I mentioned, there are still some heritage areas here, And this is really the older part of Port Moody where you still have some of that left behind. So if we drop the human here, you'll see they have some older bakeries and stuff like that. Some of the restaurants, it looks like they're part of the house. So right over here, you see there's a bakery, and there used to be a super popular Italian restaurant right over here, one of these buildings. I believe it was this one. It was called Rosa's. Every day, every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you would see lineup going all the way down the street. But unfortunately, I think they retired and they sold the restaurant to someone else. But there are still some other things, flower stores, stuff like that going on over here. And then down here, you have a few townhouses as well. So on the other side of St. John, more in the St. George area, this area is also going through a lot of change. They're building on this end, on this side of St. John, a lot of new developments as well. There is Kasana. There are some townhouses behind that closer to Hope Street, St. George Street. So this area as well is becoming pretty residential. So if we drop a human on there, this is still more of the detached, older residential. And as you can see right there, development application. But if we zoom on down, if we get to over here, you can see another development application, or this is Flavel Place, which is a townhouse project that's in the works. But right across from there, these are some newer townhomes that are already seeing that coming into place. And so, of course, these look pretty nice, very standard townhomes, and very convenient in the sense that you're in Port Moody, which is a suburb, but you're very close to getting onto Barnett Highway or going through Burquitlam and getting onto the highway if you want to get to other areas of Vancouver. So let's go back now, and we're gonna move on away into some other areas. Now, before we do so, we're gonna get into one of the key areas of Port Moody, which is Rocky Point Park. And this is a local attraction for a lot of people in Port Moody. This is where they go on the weekends, but not even just people from Port Moody. People from all around town, they come to Rocky Point Park for its nature, for its breweries, for its ice cream that you're about to see in a second. But make sure you stick around because I'm gonna get into this massive master plan community that is coming on the eastern side of Port Moody in just a second. And you don't want to miss that because it is going to be transforming to the city. But let's get into Rocky Point Park right now. Hey, real quick, we got a special gift for you. We've made a comprehensive relocation guide to Metro Vancouver that'll give you all the answers on where you should be looking, all in a single document. You'll find top cities and suburbs here and which one would be the best fit for you. You'll also immediately find information on the schools in each area. You'll find information about local attractions, shopping, dining, and lastly, a list of the highest potential markets where there is massive growth potential. And you can find all this by just following the link down below. And as always, feel free to reach out with any questions or concerns. I am here to be of service for any of you. I get people reaching out to me all the time about helping them with their move. So go ahead and reach out to me. We'll get the ball rolling and make sure you are more than well taken care of. Now let's get right back to the video. So if we zoom in, where the first first building we were talking about in St. John Street, if you take that road down, you get into kind of a loop, and that's when you enter into Rocky Point Park. So we're gonna change the view for sure here because there's some things that you definitely want to see. So Rocky Point Park is right there tucked into the Burrard Inlet. So you have obviously the waterfront, and this is an area, this is where you can go kayaking, you can take your boat, stuff like that. And Rocky Point Park is right in here. The ice cream store, which is very, it's local, but they are also expanding. They have multiple locations now. But this is where it started, and all on the street, this is called Brewers Row, and they have a ton of local breweries that craft their own beer, their own spirits. So this is an area that Port Moody residents absolutely love and enjoy. And if you look at this area right over here, right now it looks like nothingness, and it is. There's some construction site or some industrial stuff going on here with import, export, I'm not exactly sure, but what I do know is they have approved this little segment right over here. They have approved the building of some residential towers. So when that would be released is still up in the air, but when that's gonna be released, I presume that's gonna be a very popular product. It's gonna be luxury living. You're close to Rocky Point Park, you're close to breweries, and most of all, you have the waterfront views as well as the views of all the mountains over there, which I think you saw a little bit early on, but that can be an absolutely spectacular place to live. But let me just drop a human again and show you this little area. So right over there, this is the ice cream shop, and that's all of that is Rocky Point Park. There's also a restaurant over there. There's a fish and chips, and there's a swimming pool behind here. So this place, you can do anything here in Rocky Point Park. In the summertime, they also have different rib fest, which they take advantage of the park, and they set up all these different stands, and they have rib competitions. Everyone gets to vote which one is their favorite. So all these cool summer events. And if we turn around a little bit, this is a brewery, Rewind, and that's Rocky Point Spirits. There's Parkside down there. There's Yellow Dog to the left. So all these are breweries and just very local, self-crafted beer. So now if we go back and you go further down, they have a few condos here as well that are almost completing. It's Moody Yards by Mosaic, and it looks really nice. And these ones here are new, also built in the last year or two. And you have a nice soccer field. And also just in general here on Murray Street, they have some food trucks set up throughout the year. So different food trucks will come, but there are also some permanent ones that they just set up shop here, and so you can get access to those as well. Now, moving on to the Suburbs area. This is one of the areas that a lot of people like because you're ultra convenient to everything. There are multiple high rises here, and we're gonna change the view so you can see. So you have the Grand, you have Suburb, so this is Suburb Village. You have the Grand, you have the residences. These are the new ones, but all these towers, a lot of residents live right there, and they can take steps and get to Thrifty to do their grocery shopping. There's a Starbucks on the corner. There's some restaurants along here. There's Fitness World. So this is an ultra convenient area if you really don't want to have to drive or travel too far for all your daily amenities. Plus, it's right across the street from Inlet SkyTrain Station. So this is Inlet Center Station, and it's on the Millennium Line, which goes along into Burnaby, into downtown. And so that's a very convenient area even if you don't want to own a car or you don't own a car. If you live here, you're able to get around. You can walk to Rocky Point Park to enjoy your time. You can do all your shopping right around here, and you can go outside of Port Moody into other areas by just simply taking the SkyTrain. And I forgot to mention actually the SkyTrain station on St. John Street. So we're gonna cover that just right now real quick. So this is Moody Center, and this is another stop on the SkyTrain line. So from Inlet, one stop later is Moody Center. But what I want to note is this is also a station on the West Coast Express. So the West Coast Express is a train that'll take you all the way to Vancouver. It comes from Port Coquitlam and way before that, but into Port Moody and into Vancouver. So a lot of people who work will actually park over here, take the Moody Center West Coast Express train all the way to Vancouver for work, and it's just easier, faster, and frankly, it's nicer than the SkyTrain. So now getting back to Suburbs, this is the master plan community I want to talk to you about that I've been talking about, and it is right across the street from Suburbs. So this whole area right now, there's a park over here and there's some old houses over here, but this area is going through a whole redevelopment. So you see the Esso gas station right at the corner here. Behind that, this area is called Inlet District, and it is a 4-phase master plan community that is going to change the area entirely. I'm gonna put up some photos for you guys so you can see what this is going to look like. But in a sense, this is kind of like a Suburbs 2.0. So Suburbs being an extremely popular area, if you take that, pop it over to the other side, make it newer, you're gonna get Inlet District. And the special thing I want to mention about Inlet District is it is going to be a closed off community, a closed off neighborhood. What I mean by that is, as you can see here, there are streets and roads going into Suburbs, and sometimes it gets pretty chaotic because you're just trying to fight through these narrow roads. There are a lot of cars going in and out, so it gets a little bit chaotic, like I said. But with Inlet District, they are limiting access, and there will not be open roads within Inlet District itself. There will be a park in the middle, like I'm gonna show up there. There's gonna be all these different towers. So this area is just gonna be completely its own neighborhood without being bothered by cars going in and out and all that chaos going on. So that's one thing to note. And if we go a little bit further north, this is where you get into another village. And so I would say the older Suburbs village is Newport Village. Here you have some older buildings. There are still high-rises and wood frame condos. And this is a nice little area. A lot of the more elderly couples, elderly people will like staying in this community. All these older wood frames, they're a bit more spacious than the new builds now. And you're in a very quiet, very homey, cute little village. So if I drop it here, you'll see you have some, this is a local market, and so all these shops on the bottom, this is a coffee shop, and you have your resident on top. You have St. James Pub somewhere down here. You have a sushi place, a burger place. So again, just like Suburbs in the sense that you have all your daily needs right where you are, this is the same for Newport Village. You have your UPS store, you have your currency exchange. So this area, it's very convenient because all the first floors, all the lower levels are designated to shops and stores. So now if we go out there, and we're gonna talk about the central location for amenities and activities right across the street in a second, but make sure you stick around because like I mentioned earlier in the video, there is a whole area. There are lots of neighborhoods that are completely residential neighborhoods, and you get your nature, you get your peaceful, quiet cul-de-sac, your traditional neighborhoods that you definitely want to pay attention to. But right now we're going to cover this before we move on to that. So right over here, this is Port Moody Recreation Complex Center. You have all the things you could possibly need in terms of exercise. So you got your soccer field over here. You have your public tennis courts in the actual Port Moody complex. Indoor area, you have of course your gym, you have a few basketball courts, you have your skating rink where they play hockey sometimes. So all these things are in a very compact area all together right over here. So this is a one-stop shop if you just want to go for exercise. Maybe you don't even know what you want to do yet. Just take a drive there, park your car, and once you step foot inside, you have so many options that you'll eventually land on something. There is also a little hot tub right here in the corner. So after you go to the gym, get in the sauna a little bit, get in the hot tub. They have huge windows overseeing the soccer field and the trees. So very nice, relaxing area. You also have Waves Coffee Shop right in there as well. There's also, I believe, there's a cycling room. So they hold classes there where you can go and do some cycling classes. And right over here, this is Port Moody Public Library. Everything you need in terms of amenities can be found right over there. Now let's change views and let's go up the mountain into what I wanted to talk about. So right after you get past Newport Village and Port Moody Rec Center, once you get up Heritage Mountain, this is the entrance into all the residential area of Port Moody. So you're not going to see any condos, any apartments once you get past here. It's completely filled with townhouses and single family detached homes. And this is a very quiet, very peaceful neighborhood. And that's one of the things that people love about Port Moody is that it's a very quiet, very safe area to live in. Compared to a lot of the other areas, you don't really get your quiet, peaceful neighborhood. You're in a residential street, but you're also just a street or right beside a larger road. And so you'd never really get complete privacy, and that's something you definitely get in Port Moody and what a lot of the residents here cherish. So if we take Heritage Mountain up, if you go all the way, you get into Heritage Woods Secondary School, and this is where your grades 9 to 12 school is, and right behind that is Eagle Mountain Middle School. This actually came into place not super long ago. I would say in the past, less than 10 years ago is when this middle school got established. And then on Panorama Drive, if you go to the left, we're gonna get into that in a bit, you have your Aspenwood Elementary School. So there are definitely some schools around here as well. But if we just go in and talk a little bit more about the kind of house you're gonna get over here, right below David and above Heritage Mountain, this whole area, there are huge single family homes on big lots. We're gonna drop a human and let you see. As you can see, these houses, they're 3, 4, 5,000 square feet on 10,000 square foot lots. They're massive, and you have your own complete privacy in each of these units. So this, hopefully you just get a sense of the kind of home you're gonna get here. And of course you have your view of the mountains, which it's getting covered a little bit from the sky, but you get the point. So we're gonna exit from there, and there's Heritage Mountain Park over here, which there's also a school right over there, as well as the daycare. There it is, Heritage Mountain Elementary School and the daycare. So once you get up here, you really don't see any stores, any shops. It's just complete residential. So if you are looking for convenience, this area, it's gonna be you have to get on the car. It's gonna be a couple minute drive to get down there, to do your grocery shopping, go to your coffee shop, stuff like that. But if you don't mind that, you drive anyways, this area is the perfect place to raise a family and just have your own quiet space. So once we get further up north, here you get a little bit of a newer community compared to down there, and it makes sense. Like a lot of places, when they need more residents, they need more houses, they start building further up. And so this is the same case in Port Moody. So Aspenwood right over here, like we talked about, and right across from the street, all this area over here, there are a lot of townhouse options. So I'm gonna take a guy and just show you. So right across the street, these are all townhomes, and they're not super old, they're not super new, just very nice standard townhouses. So there you go. And once we get further up north, you get more into the single family detached. We're gonna go all the way up here so you can see right in the cul-de-sac. So as you can see, these houses are massive. They're almost like mansions. And you have some spectacular views from up here because you are quite a bit further up on the mountain. So for example, this house, you can't really see, but on the other side of that, you're looking down towards all of Port Moody and Coquitlam. So that is the Heritage Mountain area, and we're gonna get into the area that we were talking about where you get your luxury living. And technically it's not in Port Moody, it's right off of Port Moody, but a lot of people consider it Port Moody because it's more of a village than a city. And what I'm talking about is Anmore and Belcarra. So if you take Heritage Mountain up here and you go through East Road, you get into Anmore. And another way to get into there is going from Ioko, and all along Ioko Road over here, you have your waterfront houses. So that's what we're gonna talk about right now. And now one more thing to note, very quick, is before we get into all that is Eagle Ridge Hospital, which is right over here. So the thing with some areas is that you don't have easy accessibility to hospitals. But the good thing about Port Moody and being a tight-knit community and having a hospital right there is wherever you are in Port Moody, it's very, very quick, very easy to get to Eagle Ridge Hospital. So now if you're considering moving to Port Moody or just somewhere in Vancouver, make sure you reach out to us. We have clients calling us all the time about needing to move, trying to find their perfect place, and we know all the streets, all the areas, all their neighborhoods around here. So make sure you give us a call, reach out, and we'll get you going. We'll make sure you are put in the right area, and we'll go through your lifestyle, what you're looking for. Make sure you don't make the mistake on choosing the wrong place to live in. But like I said, we're going to get into the luxury areas of Port Moody. This is the exciting part. So I'm going to drop a human on you here in a second, but let me just shift over, change the view. You can see there are a lot of houses right by the water here. So, and once you get kind of deeper into Port Moody, going into Belcarra, that's where you have your docks. People have their own boats. So that is quite luxury living, to say the least. But if we drop a human onto here, you'll see a bit of a mix. Some of these houses are older, some are going to be newer. Right now you're seeing still the early parts of Ioko where you have a bit more of the older properties. And once you get deeper in, you'll see some completely new rebuilt luxury properties. So this, for example, you're overlooking the water. all the houses down here, you get that waterfront view. So now if we go further down, you even have an elementary school tucked into here, Pleasant Side Elementary. And once you get pretty deep into Belcarra and more, these houses can get upwards of $5 million or more, especially if you have the waterfront ones. So as you can see on this side, these are some newer properties. This doesn't show it justice because you're only seeing the garage and part of the house, but I assure you it's much larger than that, and you have a backside overlooking the water. I'll throw some pictures up there of examples of these properties so you can get a sense. And so a lot of people know that the luxury living areas where you get waterfront views is in West Vancouver. But if you're looking for a West Vancouver 2.0, this is the area to be. You have very similar attributes as West Vancouver. You're not as close to Vancouver, but you do get this same kind of nature, privacy, luxury, huge mansions here in Belcarra where you have your own dock as well. And so this goes on and on all the way down, but I'm gonna mention one more thing. So if we zoom out a bit, what a lot of people will do if they have a boat is they'll actually take their boat from Port Moody, from Amor, Belcarra into North Vancouver, because there's this little area tucked in over here. It's called Deep Cove. It's a very cute area. They have different restaurants. It's similar to Port Moody in the sense that it's a tiny community, but they have a donut place here. They have a nice seafood restaurant overlooking the water as well. And so that is one thing about being in this luxury area of Port Moody, is that if you are able to do so, you're not limited to just being in Port Moody. You can adventure around, take the boat, go to other areas, and enjoy all aspects of Metro Vancouver. And so before we end this off, let me just show you one more house here. Hopefully you can see kind of what you can expect. So this is a nice view where you can catch some stuff. And look at this, you have your little gate going to your property. And if you can see the houses over there, if we zoom in a little bit, you have your property right by the water, and those people have docks onto their boat, and that is Deep Cove over there. So they just take the boat. It's a 10-minute ride to the other side. And just look at this view. It is living at its absolute finest. So there you have it. That is Port Moody, BC, a hidden gem that I wanted to share with all of you. And if you are okay with being a little bit further away from Vancouver, maybe you even want that, you like being more in the suburban areas, then Port Moody, I would highly, highly recommend you check out. It is one of those places that, like I said, not that many people talk about, but once you get to experience it, most people absolutely fall in love with this area. And Port Moody has a special place in my heart because of the 15 plus years that I've lived in Canada, in Vancouver for, I've spent a lot of time in Port Moody. So it has a special place in my heart, and maybe I'm a little bit biased even, but I would say I've seen all areas throughout Metro Vancouver, and there's a reason that Port Moody is so special to me, and that is because of all the things that we just covered today. And once again, if you're thinking about making a move to Vancouver, BC, whether that's Vancouver, one of the suburbs, or you need help trying to figure out which place that you should look into, which place would be a right fit for you, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm here to be a service for you, to be a resource so that you are able to find the best place, the best neighborhood for you and your family. So like I said, don't hesitate, reach out to me. I will have all my contact information right up there somewhere, as well as down in the description. You can text me, you can call me, you can email me, or best yet, schedule a Zoom call with me and we can walk through everything that you need to know about this area so you can make the best decision for yourself. So with that being said, thank you guys for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into Port Moody. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Peace.